What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Welcome back to Cinema Buzz on 97.7 The City, where we talk about movies and the latest news that's making the headlines. First thing to check off the list, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre that's making the news right now. As of now, since Monday, there has been a bidding war between four major film studios trying to get the rights to make a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. So when it comes to the four studios, these are really big, you guys. First up, we have A24 with actually a Texas native from Austin, Glenn Powell, who's looking to make a TV show. Then we have Neon Studios with Osgood Perkins, who just recently made The Monkey and Longlegs, which have been questionable by far, but Longlegs was a really good movie, so I'm really interested to see what Osgood Perkins is looking to do with this. Then you have Jordan Peele, who has been on a winning streak with his latest horror movies with his studio Monkey Paw. And then we have Paramount Pictures with Taylor Sheridan, who is coming off of the success of Yellowstone, 1883, and 1923. So, according to Screen Rant, Osgood Perkins, who just came off of Longlegs and The Monkey, is set to produce and co-write with Brian Bertino, who directed the acclaimed horror movie The Strangers, with Neon. So when it comes to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm a really big fan. I love the first movie. I love the second one that was directed by Tobe Hooper, which was more of like a horror comedy, which was a really big shift from the very original. And then you have the various remakes that came out. You have the remake that came out in 2003 and 2006. Then you have Leatherface and the most recent one, which came out in 2022 on Netflix, which didn't really get anybody into the franchise. It just bombed really bad and it just received really bad reviews. And like I've mentioned before, the series has had its hits and misses, especially with the 2003 remake, which was directed by Marcus Nispel. Now, the movie wasn't received well upon its first arrival onto the movie theaters, but it has gained a cult following. When you look at reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, both critic and audience scores have fallen under 60%. But over the years, it's gained a really big following. And me, I'm a really big fan of that movie as well, especially when they had Arlie Ermy playing as Sheriff Hoyt, who is this sadistic, insane, awful human being who is wearing a badge in that movie. But unfortunately, we lost him in 2018, but he left a mark in the Texas Chainsaw franchise. Then we have Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Studios. Now, this is really interesting. I mean, Jordan Peele, you guys mostly know him from Key and Peele, the comedy sketch show that was on Comedy Central. Fucking hilarious. I love that show. It was amazing. He's an amazing writer and actor. But then when he made the jump to horror, that's when people were really shocked to see that he could really make just absolute cinema and pure horror. So I could see Jordan Peele taking a more psychological aspect of the Texas Chainsaw and crank it up to 11 and just create new kinds of horror to further the character Leatherface. Next up, we have Taylor Sheridan, who I'm kind of rooting for because he is a Texas native. And although I'm not too familiar with his work, I haven't seen Yellowstone or any of the prequel TV shows. He is responsible for writing the screenplays for Hell or High Water and Sicario, which have done really well, and they're pretty much neo westerns if you want to consider them in that range of genre. And Taylor Sheridan has mentioned before that he's a very, very big fan of the Texas Chainsaw series. He loves those movies. So I honestly think he would be one of the best fits for this movie, especially since he's from Texas. And I've always carried the strong opinion. I think if you're going to direct a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, you have to be from Texas. It's sort of like the same rule that they have with the 007 movies with James Bond. They always need a British director in order to make a James Bond film. So I think it will go hand in hand. You need to be from Texas if you're going to make a Texas Chainsaw movie. So I think Taylor Sheridan is a really good fit for this, especially if you're from the Lone Star State. So don't get me wrong. I think A24 is really good, and they've had a really good run of movies. They take really big risks and jumps when it comes to movie making, and I think they pay off really well. They've done horror, they've done comedy, they've done action. They're just on a winning streak. But the one thing that really strayed me away from A24, like I know that I mentioned Glenn Powell is in hands of making this, but he wants to make it a TV series, a limited TV series. And as soon as I read that news, it just pushed me away. I don't want this to be a TV show. This has to be a movie, and it has to be experienced on the big screen in the movie theater. If they do make it a TV series, it's really, I feel like they would have a lot of options. I mean, A24 has made really good TV shows in the past. They've had their hand in Euphoria, Beef, which was on Netflix and has done really well. The Sympathizer on HBO with Robert Downey Jr. I think they could do a really good job with a TV series, but like I said, it has to be a movie. It's out of the question to put it on the streaming service. It just has to be in the movie theater. So that's enough for Texas Chainsaw news. We got the latest trailer for James Gunn's Superman. It came out just yesterday, and it looks fantastic. In this new trailer, you get to see Krypto, a little more scenes with Krypto, and he's fighting with Superman. There's this really cool slow-mo shot where Krypto pushes this other man who seems to have the same powers as Superman, and then Superman uppercuts him, and you see his teeth flying towards the screen. And you actually hear the teeth clank against the camera lens, which is a really good way to get your audience to feel like they're in the movie with Superman. Because you know how Superman fans are. They want to be just like him. So I think that's a perfect way to start the trailer. There's also another shot that has been getting a lot of people speculating. There's a scene where Superman is holding some baby. It's like a green baby. It almost looks like a baby zombie from Minecraft. And a lot of people are coming up with theories on who this might be. They're coming up with different comic book characters, obscure comic book characters that not a lot of people have heard of. But nonetheless, James Gunn is going to do a fantastic job. I mean, you saw what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the man to direct a Superman movie, so you can't go wrong with James Gunn. Tickets are on sale now for July 11th, so get them as soon as you can. And don't forget to fill up on a large bucket of popcorn and icy. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark hits its 44th anniversary today. Raiders of the Lost Ark has become iconic in the action-adventure genre of films and has become my personal favorite. Ever since I saw that movie, I was 5 years old. As soon as the credits hit for that movie, I fell in love. I knew I want to make movies. I want to watch movies. Anything that has to do with that, I'm in. So I owe Raiders of the Lost Ark a lot for that. And of course, the Indiana Jones franchise has inspired lots of other franchises, whether it's in video games, comics, books, and of course, other movies. You have the Uncharted and Tomb Raider series. You have Pirates of the Caribbean, the Mummy franchise with Brendan Fraser, and so much more. With 5 movies, a TV show, multiple books and graphic novels, and about 7 video games, this is definitely a favorite. The movie will be playing at Cinemark Hollywood on June 14th, 15th, and the 18th. So be ready to get your tickets for that, you guys. Are you tired of sequels? Are you tired of prequels? Are you tired of sequels to prequels or prequels to sequels? Or what about a TV show that's a sequel to a prequel? Or have you heard about the TV show that's a prequel to the sequel, which leads to the spin-off, which is going to be a prequel to the sequel of the other movie? Do you just want to see more original films in Hollywood? Well, that's too bad, because the cult classic Spaceballs is going to return for a sequel later in 2027. Hollywood legend Mel Brooks is creating a sequel to the Star Wars parody with returning cast members such as Bill Pullman as Lone Star and Rick Moranis as Dark Helmet. So not only was this a huge surprise to me, considering that Rick Moranis has been in retirement for almost 30 years, I was surprised to find out that Mel Brooks was still alive. As of now, I just learned that he's 98 years old, and there's a video of him announcing this movie, and he looks like he's in perfect shape. And if you know, Mel Brooks played Yogurt in the original Spaceball movie, so he's going to reprise his role for that. So I cannot wait to see what Mel Brooks has got for this sequel. So we have 2 original cast members returning, but one question that I have is, who are going to be the other 2? You have Daphne Zuniga, who played Princess Vespa in the original one, but there hasn't been any word yet on whether she'll return to reprise her role. And of course, you have John Candy, who played Barf, Lone Star's Chewbacca-esque partner. But unfortunately, John Candy passed away back in 1994. So whoever's going to play Barf in the sequel are going to have some really, really big shoes to fill. But we also have a new cast member that's joining the ranks for this movie with Keke Palmer. Now, if you don't know who Keke Palmer is, you've been living under a rock, so you need to get out of there immediately. She's probably one of the most funniest and talented actors right now, so I can't wait to see what she's going to bring to Spaceballs 2. As of now, multiple reports have said that Amazon Studios, who is going to be producing this movie, have not said anything on what Keke Palmer's role will be in this movie. So we'll just have to wait for more trailers and more news in the future. Now that we got the news out of the way, what movies did we watch this week? So, Predator: Killer of Killers has been certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with a 97% score. Now, I got to watch this last week, and I was so excited for this, and it did not disappoint. This is probably one of the best movies in the entire franchise, including the Aliens vs. Predator movies. So the story follows 3 different characters from 3 different time periods. You have a Scandinavian warrior, you have a shinobi assassin in feudal Japan, and a World War II pilot from Miami, Florida. So each story was its own, as I mentioned, but there's a 4th segment in the movie which connects all 3 movies. I'm not going to spoil it because you need to watch it. It's on Hulu, but that 4th segment is probably the best way to close that movie. It was so good, and you could really get invested in these characters. I think my favorite segment within that movie was the second one with the shinobi assassin. Like I mentioned, there's not going to be any spoilers, but it's mostly silent. There's no dialogue. I think there's only maybe 5 words that are spoken throughout the entire segment, but it was just absolutely perfect. It made up with action, made up with intensity. It was just perfect, and I couldn't get over it. The 3rd segment, which included the World War II pilot, was also really good, and I think would be considered a win for the Latino community, considering that the pilot, Torres, is of Mexican descent. So I think that's really cool that we got some representation and see that a Mexican can kill a predator. Each story was gory, it was action-packed, and it kept you on edge. The animation was also really good. It was reminiscent of the recent Spider-Verse movies with that comic book style. It also reminded me of the Netflix series Love, Death, and Robots. Not only in the animation, but the storytelling, how each episode is completely different and not connected at all. I think that was really cool. So after watching this movie, I just cannot wait anymore. My patience is wearing thin for Predator Badlands. So we're just going to have to wait until November to see even more Predator action. Up next, we have the horror thriller from YouTube sensation The Philippou Brothers. Coming off of the success from Talk to Me, the Philippous tell a story of child abuse, trauma, and grief. Siblings Piper and Andy are in foster care under Laura, who is a psychologist who volunteers to take care of them and foster them in her own home. But later, the kids begin to uncover strange and weird events. This movie really hits you with like a sense of sorrow. It almost left it like a black pit in my stomach that I couldn't get rid of. Each scene was done meticulously, of course, because of the Philippou brothers. They know how to direct a scene. They know how to direct a horror scene. They know how to build up intensity and tension. This had a lot of emotional lengths as well. It wasn't just jump scares and violence and scary scenes. There's a message behind this, and once you have to really pay attention to what the characters are saying. There's a lot of imagery, a lot of metaphorical stuff that's going on in the background that you really have to pay attention to, and I think it will really bring you to emotional highs that I don't think you see in a lot of horror movies today. This is definitely a number 1 movie right now for the year, and I'm gonna Bring Her Back 4.5 stars. I can't wait to see what the Philippines bring up next. We're gonna have to wait another 2 years to see what other project they got going on. And last up for the last review, I watched Coffee and Cigarettes by Jim Jarmusch. This is a special little movie that I personally enjoyed. I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea or cup of coffee, if you will, but it's basically just 11 different stories in one movie. Each story will be from like 8 to maybe 15 minutes of people just having conversations while they're sipping a nice cup of coffee and smoking a cigarette. There's lots of really good stories in here. There's a story of RZA and GZA, the rappers, talking to Bill Murray, trying to convince him to stop smoking and drink coffee. Then you have Steve Buscemi talking to 2 artists about Elvis Presley while they're trying to just enjoy toast, coffee, and cigarettes. Then you have Roberto Benigni, who directed Life is Beautiful with his scene of just talking about not avoiding the dentist. It's really mundane conversations, but they somehow keep you really entertained. It's super unique, and I absolutely love this movie. I know how simple it sounds and how boring it may seem to some people, but this was just a really unique watch and a fun film, and it's definitely one of my favorites. And that's why I'm giving Coffee and Cigarettes 5 stars. It's such a unique and fun film, and I hope more people get to watch it. It's also on the Criterion Collection, so definitely give more watches to the Criterion Collection. I think it's a really good way to spread your palette and discover new movies, even music. There's lots of good movies that have good soundtracks, good scores. It'll expand your taste, whether it's visual or audio. And now for our final segment, how about we look at people's Letterbox top four? For today's top four, we have Ezra. For the first one, we have True Grit, the original from 1962 with John Wayne. Now, I haven't seen this movie, but I have seen the 2010 remake with Jeff Bridges and Haley Steinfeld. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember loving it, especially since I'm a pretty big Western fan. This was really, really good. The action, there isn't really much action from what I remember. I just remember there was a lot of dialogue, but the dialogue actually really kept me hooked. So you can't really go wrong with the Western, and True Grit is no exception. But I definitely have to give the original a watch soon. Next, we got No Country for Old Men. I love this movie. It's so good. I kind of see it. It's definitely a neo-Western, but I also like to see it from the perspective of a horror movie. Just imagine you run into $1 million, you hit the jackpot, but then you find out that that there's a crazy sadistic psychopath out on a vendetta just to kill you. You don't know him, and he definitely doesn't know you, but all you know is that he wants you dead. The hitman and antagonist, Anton Chigurh, is probably one of the most terrifying villains that we've seen on a movie screen. And there's actually been a study done by multiple professional psychologists that deemed Anton Chigurh and Javier Bardem's portrayal to be one of the most accurate depictions of a psychopath in film. So that just makes it even more scary. Just every scene when Anton Chigurh pops up, your heart just drops. You're scared of what's going to happen. He's unpredictable, but he's also predictable at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. If you get into his path, there's a big chance you're never going to be seen again. So I'm just glad this is a fictional movie and he doesn't actually exist. So definitely a great movie. For the last two, we have two Tarantino movies. You have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I haven't had the chance to watch this in theaters, but I know that it looks really good. And it's Tarantino, so you can't really go wrong. It does have a really stacked cast. It has Leo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margaret Qualley, and definitely lots of other stars. But I definitely need to give that a watch. And next, for the last of this top four, you have Inglourious Basterds. Now, this is probably my number one Tarantino movie. I've talked about this with other people, and they have the same opinion. It's just a really good movie. It's bloody. It's got a lot of action. The dialogue is really good. You know, Tarantino loves to write a lot of really good dialogue scenes. So you really have to pay attention whenever there's a conversation scene. There's lots of little details that just really get you hooked. So this is a pretty good lineup for his favorite four movies. So I'm going to give Ezra's Letterbox 4 stars. He clearly likes the classics, and he definitely has a Western flair for cinema. And you can never go wrong with that kind of taste. So that wraps it up for Cinema Buzz, you guys. There's a lot of good movies lined up for the summer. So what are you most excited for? And remember, go watch a movie and have a good time. I'll see you in the next one with more movies.